Okay, then I can see you guys now. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ganesh, Joydeep, Steve, Sharma, Shushma, Anish, Aditya, Hemant. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the day 3 of Node.js Essential. Good evening, Naveen. How are you? Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the last day, or as I say, the day 3 of Node.js Essential, where we're going to learn how to create an API from scratch. So, yesterday we talked about what was an API, okay, and what exactly it holds. And today we're going to try to build it from scratch. We'll try to create a basic API and see if it is working fine. Okay, so today basically we're going to do an introduction to API using Node.js. Okay, so good evening, guys. Good evening, Sarthak, Satyapriya, Jayashri, Balu. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so first, let's tell me, are you guys excited for today's session, everyone? Good evening, Francis. How are you, buddy? So, guys, are we excited for today's session? Because today we're going to be talking about one more module, and by using that module, we're going to be building the API. Okay, so again, let's go and let's quickly recap of what was an API, so that while creating it, it will be more understandable to us. Okay, so let's quickly discuss what exactly was an API, what we discussed yesterday, right? So if you remember, guys, yesterday we discussed that there is something called as a front end in an application, right? That is nothing but the view, the things that you see, the interactions that you do. That is what you call as a front end. So let's say somewhere you have a front end, or you can also call it a client, it doesn't matter, a front end, right? And then, as I mentioned, that somewhere there is a database as well, where all your data is stored. So whatever you get from front end, or whatever you display on front end, that data is stored somewhere in something called as a database, right? But for their communication, there is also one more layer in between, which is nothing but a set of functionalities, a set of different functionalities doing different things. Like one functionality might be creating some data, one functionality might be getting some data for you, one functionality might be deleting some data for you. So different functionalities doing different things. And from a front end, you can request to this server that I want to do this, and depending on your request, it will choose which functionality to work, or which functionality to make what do you say, execute. And depending on that, it will execute that functionality and give you a response that, okay, fine, this is what you're doing, right? So that's what it is. So today we're going to be talking about how to build this layer of the application that you call as the API. Why am I writing like that? That you call as a API, or if it is on the web, you also call it a web API, or sometimes we also call it a web service, because we are providing a service on the internet. So this is one application, this whole thing is one application, and this can be any other application. It can be any front end, Facebook's front end, Twitter front end, your front end. Anyone can ask me if I'm an API. So I can communicate to any software. So that's why it's also considered as a piece of thing that helps two different softwares communicate each other, right? So that's how it works. So that's why sometimes when you ask people what is an API, it's nothing but a program that helps to communicate two different softwares with each other. So yeah, it is exactly like that. This is some other software front end. It can be a mobile app, it can be a web app, it can be anything. And this is some other software, or this whole thing itself is some other program or a software, and they two are communicating with the help of request and response. With the help of what? Request. So whenever a front end wants to do something, it will request the API that I want this. Then the API will execute that particular functionality, and it will give a response that have I done it, or have I not done it, or whatever you wanted, I've got it for you. That's how basically things work. And today we're going to see how to build this thing. Okay, so guys, see, I'm not explaining this in very detail, I know that, but I'm trying to keep it short and simple and at least understandable. So I hope you guys are understanding this. Just to be clear, web API is run in the cloud, yes, on a server basically, yes. So it can be on a cloud, it can also be on a normal server, it can be anywhere. So yes, see, why do we put things on cloud? To make it live, to make it accessible for everyone. So I can create a API and keep it in my PC. Okay, and all the softwares that are basically running in my network can use my API, but the whole world cannot use it. And I cannot afford to make that big cloud or a server so that whole world can access my PC. That's why I put it on the cloud. That's nothing but a computer at the end, which is basically kind of a supercomputer having all the things very high level so that anyone can connect to it and work on it. Right, Naveen? So yeah, you host it on a cloud, you host it on a normal shared server. It's totally up to us, right? It's just we host it so that it can be connected to the whole world and anyone can access it. Depends upon how much restriction you are allowing. Like some APIs are private, only a set of people can use it. Some APIs are public for everyone. Some APIs are secured, that you need some username and password if you want to use my API. So it depends on upon the layer how you want your API to be. Do you want it to be free for everyone? Do you want it to be free for only few set of people? Right? Do you want it to be paid? Do you want it to be secured, authenticated? It depends. Sometimes some API also you might have known, right? Sometimes some API also have API key. So first you need to log into their website, generate a API key, and then only you can call their API. So depends how you want to create it. Okay, cool. Then guys, let's go and let's use Node.js to make this. But before we move ahead, we have to talk about a little small thing here. Okay, so let's remove this database logic out of sight and let's only talk about two things in this case: the front end, that can be anything, a mobile application, a web application, a JS application, a React based application. It can be anything. We don't care about that right now. So we have our front end. Okay. And then we also have our API. Now, how do they talk? That is very, very important to understand. How do these things talk? That is very, very important. Okay. So they talk in a manner of request and response. Okay. The client or the front ends sends something called as a request, because it is asking for something, right? Okay, I want this, or I want that, or I want you to do this. So it's kind of asking something, asking the API to do something. That's why it is called as a request. And then after performing that, or whatever happens on the API sends back a response. That's how normally these two pieces talk to each other, in terms of request and response, right? So understanding this is very important. Now, whoever is sending request basically becomes a client. You might have heard of this, right? So whoever is sending a request basically becomes a client, and whoever is handling the request and sending proper responses becomes the server in that case, because it is the provider. You're asking me, I'm providing it. For example, in the same case, let's say we also have the database somewhere. Okay, we also have the database somewhere. Now, let's say from your client, you send a request to the server, to the API, that please give me all the products data, something like that, right? So the request comes here. The API understands that what you need. And now it also sends one more request to the database. Okay, please give me all the products data. Someone wants it. Now the database also sends a response. Okay, fine, here you have it. You take it, change something in it, and send it as a response. So in that case, in talking about database, API becomes your client and your database becomes a normal server. So it's like it's not fixed who is client or who is server. It completely depends on who is doing what. In these cases, this is your client and this is your server. In these two things, this becomes your client because this is asking, and this becomes your server. So it depends on what they are doing. It's not always fixed. Understand? Because guys, see, all of them will be launched on a server. We'll have a database server where our database will be launched so that it can be accessed online. We'll have our API server where our API will be launched. We also want to launch our front end application, right? So that everyone can access it. So we'll also have our front end server where our front end will be launched, all of my HTML files, CSS files. So everything will be launched on a server, but they will get the name depending on what they are doing, whether you're a client or a server. Okay, yes, this follows, because yeah, anything that works on internet follows the TCP IP rules. Yes, anything that works on internet, right? So guys, that's how basically things work. Now in this case, as of now, we don't have a client. That's fine. We don't have a database. That's fine, because right now we are talking about this. We're going to build this. So basically what we're going to build is a program that will create a server, and that will have an ability to handle incoming request and send responses. Understanding, guys? So we're going to build a program that will have the ability to handle incoming request from a client, from a front end, or from any client, and will be also able to send some response. That's what we're going to learn. how to build that. And before moving on to that directly, let's also talk a little more about request and response, guys. Just a little more, just to like so that you guys get the idea. So that if anyone in this world asks you what is request and response, you should be able to answer it. Okay. So now let me open a notepad for this. Okay. So first let's talk about request. Okay. Spelling mistake. I'm so sorry. Request. Now you know what is a request? Something that a client asks to the server, right? That is what you call as a request. Now, what are the things that can be mentioned in a request? So the first and the very important thing is there is something called as a request method. There is something called as a request method. That means which kind of request you're sending. Now you have different operations that you can tell the API to perform. You can tell the API to create something. You can tell the API to fetch something for you. You can tell the API to delete something. You can tell the API to update something. So these are the operations that are generally considered as part of API operations. So based on that, whatever you're telling the server to perform, whatever you're telling the API to perform, based on that, you also have to decide the request method. By reading the request method only, the server understands what do I have to do, what kind of request are you sending. Depending on that, I'll decide what do I have to do, whether I have to create something for you, or I have to delete something for you, or I have to update something. So there are various methods like get, post, delete, and put. Some more are there, but these are the most common ones. So you send a get request when you want the API to fetch something for you, get some data for you. You send a post request when you want the API to create something for you. You send a delete request when you want to basically delete something for you, when you want the API to delete something. And you send a put request when you want the API to update something for you. Now, there are two things available for update. There is something called as put, and there is also something called as patch. So these are the two things. These are the two kinds of requests that you mention while sending request. So basically, while sending request, you need to mention the method of the request. And depending on this method, only the server understands what do I have to do. The API understands. That's why this is very, very important. Sir, can a server respond to different requests by client simultaneously? Yes, 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 JS Chavan. Yes. A server can be connected to multiple clients at once and it can respond different things. Yes, that's completely fine. Okay, guys. This is the first important thing, method. Now, second thing that can be there is data. Sometimes you might want to send some data in request. For example, if you want the API to create something, you'll obviously send some data, right? Fine, API, please take this data and create this thing for me. Right? For example, when you go on Facebook and fill all the details for create account, and when you click on the button, what happens? Facebook sends that whole data to the Facebook API and tells it to create that thing in the database. So data is also important, or we also call it sometimes body data, request body data. So request method is very important. Request body data is also very important, but it's optional because you will only send data when you want to create or update. You will not send data while performing a get operation, because that is operation when you want to get data, not send data or create data. So it's also very important thing, but it's optional. Depends on what kind of request you're performing. Then the third and one of the most important things that is sent via request is something called as a header. Now, guys, let me just explain you very cleanly what exactly a header is. A header is nothing but extra information about the request that you're going to pass to the server. That's what a header carries. So header is nothing but a way of passing extra information from the client to server. So if it is a request header, it is a way of passing extra information. See, this is request method. This is the actual data that you're passing. So sometimes you also want to pass some extra information, like at what time I'm sending you this data, what is the type of data that I'm sending to you, right? What is the encoded type of my data, right? What kind of data I'm sending. All that extra information you can mention in the headers. Okay, so header is nothing but a way of passing extra information in the request. That's it. These are the three main components of a request. So while sending a request, you have to keep in track of these things. What are you doing? Okay. Now let's talk about the response. Now let's say you have sent the request on the server on the API, and now API has done all the stuff, and now it wants to send you response. So what are the things that will come in a response? First thing, very important, the actual data. The data, or you can also call the info, for what you asked for. Am I getting it? So you asked for get, he sent you the data. You asked for post, creation of something. It sent you, okay, fine, I have created it. So basically, in the response, the first thing that you'll get is the data or the info, the actual response, what have been done. Okay. Second thing you might get is a status. Status that basically mentions what happened with your response, what happened with your request. So there are different status codes. Like 200 is for like, okay, your request was successful, I have done everything. Okay, sometimes if there is a problem in the request, or sometimes if there is a problem on the server, I was unable to what do you say, process your request, or I was unable to understand your request, so I'll send you a what do you say, a status code of 500. Server is crashing, server is having some problem. Sometimes if you request for something that I don't have, I will send you a status code of 404, that I didn't found what you're trying to ask. I don't have that. So you also get status code. You might have seen it, guys. You go on some website and you try to access something that's not there, so it tells you 404 not found. That 404 is what you call as a status code. That's a status code of not finding a resource that the client is asking for. Okay, so you send data info and you also send status codes depend on what happened with the request. Did you do it? Did you not do it? Was it perfect? Do you understand the request? Is there a server issue, or is there a request issue, or you were unable to find it? What happened with the request? So you depict it using the status codes. And you also have headers back. These are called as the response headers. Sometimes you also want to send some extra information from the API to the client. So in that case, you again send headers. So headers are also basically transferred from client to server and also from server to client for extra information only. So guys, are we clear? These are the components of a request and these are the components of a response. Mainly, these are the basic components of request and response. Okay. Body data, see, body data basically is the request body data. That means, let's say, sometime you want the API to create something for you. So you'll obviously send some data, right? Okay, I'm sending you this data, I'm sending you this user information, please create it for me, please store it in the database for me. So you will send some data, right? So that's what you call as a body data. You're trying to send some data, so you send the data to the request body. That's why I'm calling it the body data. Are we cleared, everyone? I think a lot of people are asking attendance link and all that. Please guys, see the description, or it will be always in the chat, and every 5 minutes we keep putting the attendance link in the chat, so don't worry, you'll get it. So everyone, all set of what request and response look like? Guys, now we are ready. Now we are ready to create our API, basically create a server which will have tons of different functionalities. Guys, please tell me, all set? Can we move ahead, guys? Can we go and start creating the things? Okay, then let's go in our VS Code and let's create a new file. Instead of deleting this file, let's keep it because I'll share it to you. Let's create a new file. So let's call it, what should we call it? We should call it the API.js, something like that. Okay. Now we'll be running this file from now on. Now, guys, to help you in creating API, there's an inbuilt package or inbuilt module available in Node.js that will give you a lot of functionalities that will help you to create server and build your API. Just like you had FS module, it basically gives you a lot of functions that help you to perform file reading and writing. Right? FS module gives you a lot of functions that help you to perform file reading and writing. Just like that, there is one more module available in Node.js that helps you to create server and also helps you to create the functionalities and the APIs. Okay, API functions, and the module name is HTTP. Okay, so let's first of all require it. HTTP. Now you see this is the package name, but if you want, you can name it anything. You can name it API H, something like that. But it will be good if you also name it HTTP because it will be more better for us to understand. Okay, so this is the module that will give you all the functions that you need to create server and start building API. Just like you had FS module, right? It gives you a lot of functions to create, to perform file reading, writing. Just like that, you also have this. Okay, cool. Let's go then. Now the first thing you need to do is you need to create a server. How to do it? Very simple. Create a variable called as server, or you can name it anything, guys. As I'm see, whenever I mention a variable, that means you can name it anything. I hope you understand, right? It's a variable. You can name it anything. So const, I'm naming it server equals to http dot create server. This is the function that creates the server for you. And this create server has a callback function. Okay. You can put some console.log here if you want. Or let me just write incoming request. Don't worry, I'll explain you what this function does in some time. Okay. So now you have created a server. Now you have to put it online, because if the server is not on, how can it listen to request? A server should always be on, right? If an application is there and you want it to continuously listen for incoming request, it needs to be on. So right now we have just created the server. Now we have to make sure that we switch it on. And for that, it's very simple. You just have to call server dot listen. And here you have to mention the port number, because right now this server is not online on a cloud. It is going to be online in your computer. And in your computer, there are a lot of different servers running already, different services running already. So you have to mention a port number, because by default, all the servers that you have in your PC have the same name, have the same IP address. Guys, see, by default, all the servers that are there in your PC, they have the same IP address called as 127.0.0.1. This is the common IP address of all the servers in your PC. Okay. So basically, you need to mention a port number so that your this server can be easily identified. So I'm going to give it a port number of 8000, which is mostly available. And it also has a callback function, which is called if your server starts running. So just pass this function here and just do console.log server up and running. And that's it. That's all. That's what you have to do. So you created a server and here you go, you made it up. But as I said, in your computer, there are a lot of already servers running. If you have a MongoDB server, if you have a database server, SQL server, all those servers are already running in your PC. So you need to mention a port number so that you can uniquely identify this server, or whenever you want to call this server, you can identify it, because IP address of all the servers in your PC is same, 127.0.0.1. So if you only mention the IP address, your computer will never know on which server I should go. So that's why port number. Okay. Now that means if you want to call this server, if you want to access this server, or if you want to send a request to this server, you have to write something like this: 127.0.0.1 colon 8000. That's what you're going to write. This is the server address, guys. What if port 8000 is, you can change it, Naveen. Then if you get an error that 8000 is already in use, you can make it 8001, 8002, 8003. That's fine. Mostly 8000 will be available. I have seen that much, that 8000 is mostly available. But yeah, you can also try 8080. It's totally up to you. You can change it. If it is already in use, you can change it, or you can shut that down and start this. It's also fine. Is it clear, Naveen? So guys, this is your server address. And also don't forget to mention some basic stuff, that is http colon double slash. That's what you mention, right? Everywhere when you try to access something, when you try to access a server. So here we go, guys. This is your complete server address. And one more thing, just like as we know that online also, every server that we buy, every server space that we buy, it also has an IP address. But no one can remember IP address. Like most of the people cannot remember IP address. That's why we also buy domain names, right? That are easy to remember, so that no one has to remember IP address to call my stuff or to call my website. Just like that, your computer also gives you a feature that if you're not comfortable with remembering the IP address, you can replace it with localhost, like that. Instead, either you write IP address or you write localhost. That's it. Okay, so either you access it like this or you access it like 127.0.0.1. Wow, this is basics of basics. I hope you're understanding Shuk Wun Non Su, right? I hope you're enjoying it, because a lot of people don't know this. So they have sometimes learned Express online. They have sometimes created endpoints, but they don't exactly know how to access things or what exactly goes on behind the scenes. So I hope you guys are enjoying this and understanding this, that we are learning what actually happens behind the scenes. right? Cool, everyone? Perfect. So now guys, see, this functionality makes sure that our server is up and running, and this create server function actually creates the server for you. But I also created a function inside it. What is this function doing? Now is the time to understand. This is the function that will be called every time a request comes on this server. This is the function that will be called every time a request comes on this server. That's all. Now let me show you. Save this, okay? Run this program. See this terminal issue. I don't like this terminal sometimes. Okay. So node space api.js. See that, guys? Your message server is up and running. That means your server has started, and you can see that the command is not ending. See that? We are not getting this thing back. The command is not ending because your program is now running. It's not stopped yet. Your program is now running because it's a server program. It's not a normal program that you execute and end, right? Normally what happened, guys, yesterday, whatever program we wrote, we executed it and it ended. But today, if you're running this program, you can see it's not ending. It means it's a server program. It's up. It's running simultaneously. It's running continuously. That's why the program is not ending. So server is up and running, guys. Now let's go ahead and let's test by sending a request on this. So copy this. Now, as I mentioned, guys, any request that you send to the server, this function will be called. And right now you can see this function is simply doing what? Console.log. So let's see if we are able to see this console.log. So let's go. Let's go in the browser, guys. Let's go in the browser and let's paste this http colon double slash localhost colon 8000. Right? This is the address. Enter. Don't worry. Here the browser is loading. Don't worry. It's because we are not sending any response from the server. That's fine. Browser loads whenever it doesn't get the response. That's fine. But what we actually want to check is, are we getting our console.log? And here we go, guys. Incoming request. See that? That means this function is getting called. But the browser will keep loading. See, like this. The browser will keep loading. It's because you're not sending any response. So let's learn now how to send a response for any request that comes to this server. Guys, let's see. And for that, guys, this function also has two parameters or arguments available as two different objects. The first object is called as the request object, and the second object is called as the response object. And instead of naming them this big, you can simply put req and res. Now understand. Okay, let me just close this thing, otherwise this request will keep hampering my RAM. Okay, so whatever request comes to this server, all the request information like the method, the body data, the request headers, they will all be available inside this request object. And whatever response thing you want to do, all of that you can do with this response object. Okay, so that's it. So now whatever request comes to this server, all the request information will be held inside this, and all the response functionalities you can perform it using this response object. So let's try to send some response like this. So to send a response, you simply have to do this response dot write, and here you can pass like hello world. This is what you want to send as a response, or hello, you calling me, something like that, a dummy response. And at the end, you also have to end the response. Fine, completed the whole process, got the request, and I'm sending this response. And this is just a console.log I'm doing. That's it, guys. Let's see if it is working, everyone. Let's see. Save it. Again, you have to rerun your program because you have changed some code, so don't forget to rerun your program. Or I can show you something how to avoid this headache of rerunning the program. So right now, if you go ahead and change anything in the code, you always have to restart your program. What if something was there that will do it for me, an automated task that so that I don't have to do it? So what you can do is you can install a tool. By using this npm command, you can install a tool. So just do this. Yes, Naveen, it is mandatory. Yes, that's what ends the response. Yes, if you're doing this, if you're using your HTTP module, it's mandatory. That is mandatory, because response.write is only mentioning what content are you sending? Response.end actually ends the response. Okay, so yeah, it's mandatory, Naveen. Now, guys, as I said, anytime you change code, you need to restart your program. What if you don't want to do that? What if something was there that can do it for you? So for that, there is a tool available. You need to install it. Exactly, Ronak. You just go ahead and write npm install -g. That means you're installing it globally, not only for this project. You're installing it globally. So -g nodemon. I already have it, but I'm still installing it. So it will just take a minute, maybe, or 30 seconds. And you, that's it. Almost done. Cool. And now, instead of running your program with Node, run it with nodemon. So nodemon api.js. It basically runs your program, and now it will keep checking if there is any change in the program and you're saving it. Now, if you just go ahead and save your program anytime, see, it restarts. It means now you don't have to worry about restarting or rerunning your program. Nodemon is doing that for you. Anytime you save it, so not on changes, anytime you save it, then it happens. That's it now. Headache is gone. Now we don't even have to see at the terminal anymore. Obviously, we have to see for console.logs, but yeah, for running, we don't have to. Okay. Let's see, guys. Are we getting this response? Let's see. Save it. Let's go on the browser. Let's send this request again. So http:// localhost colon 8000. And here we go. See the response, guys. Hello, you calling me? That was the response. And also see, incoming request is also available here. We'll use it. Don't worry. Don't worry, Karthik. Right now, we don't need it. Right now, we are not extracting anything from the request, right? That's why. We'll use it. Don't worry. I just mentioned it that whatever is coming in the request, it will be available in this object and we can use it. How to use it, I'll show you. Don't worry. So everyone, are we clear? That means no matter how many requests you send, no matter which kind of request you send, this is the only function that will be called. Okay, for every request, whether it is a get request, post request, delete request, update request, doesn't matter. This is the only function that will be called. So what if I want to do different things for different requests? Reference error, server is not defined as an object. Please make sure that you have the correct name. Dev, please make sure that you have the correct name. Check if you have the correct name. Check that once. This error only comes if you don't have the proper variable name. So you have created something else, but you're using something else. So check if your name is correct. Okay, that might solve it. Now, guys, focus on this statement that I'm mentioning right now. This is the function that will be called for every request. But what if I want to perform different things on different requests? So for that, we need to understand, right, how to identify which request is coming. So I can apply a if else, right? If this request comes, do this. If this request comes, do this. If this request comes, do that. Understanding, everyone? Because we only have a single function that gets called for every request. So how to identify? So we have to identify which request is coming, and based on that, we'll apply if and else. If this request comes, do this. If this request comes, do that. So let's see how to identify which request is coming. But there is one problem with the browser, that browser is not able to send every kind of request perfectly. A browser is not a tool that we should use to send different kind of request. We should create a front end application for that. But right now, as of now, we cannot build it because it will take a lot of time. So what can I do? What can I use to send different kinds of requests to check my API? That is one thing that browser cannot do properly. Or I can create a front end application to do that, but that is time consuming. So do I have any tool available that will help me to test my API by sending different kinds of requests? So yes, there is a tool available. Can we use different port number for different requests? Nope. Then it will be different server, Naveen, right? Your server is a single server running on a port number. If you keep changing the port numbers, then it's like you're running different servers. Understanding, Naveen? That will be a problem, right? Cleared. Port number is like a unique ID for that server. That server is running on this particular port. So port is like your, let's like your processor port. It's running on a particular port, listening for every request. If you keep changing it, then it will be problematic, right? It will take your time it will may cause harm to your RAM, all that stuff. So that's why we cannot change that port number continuously. That is a problematic thing. Okay, so now guys, let's see. So now, as I said, browser is not capable of sending good request every time. It's capable of sending good request, but you cannot use it for creating request directly. You have to create a front end application for it, and we cannot do it as of now. So we need a tool that will help us to actually send different kind of request. And for that, don't worry, you don't have to go anywhere. In your VS Code only, there is an extension that helps you in this. Exactly. That is Thunder Client. Just download this, sorry, just install this extension. Now, previously, when this was not there, at that time, people used to use Postman, which was a separate software, or it was also a Chrome extension a lot of time back. Then there came Insomnia, which is also a good software, but it's kind of heavy. So instead of going to this separate softwares, what you can do is you can install something called as a Thunder Client. But they also have some really cool features, guys. So in future you can use them. But as of now, to save some time, let's install this extension. As you can see, I have already installed it. So you also have to just install it. Just search for Thunder. See this icon here, a Thunder icon. Just install it. Thunder Client. That's it. Install this, and as soon as you install it, guys, as soon as you install it, you will get this icon available. See the Thunder Client icon. Just click on that, and here we go. Let me just delete all of this first. So for the first time, it will look like this. Once you click on the icon, this icon will be only available after installing. If it is not, restart your VS Code once. Okay. And here now you can actually create requests. So this tool helps you to create request that you can send to your API to check if your API is working perfectly. Okay. So let's go and create a simple request. So click on new request, and here we go. See, you can mention what kind of request do you want to send. You want to send a get request, post, put, delete, patch, head option. Which kind of request do you want to send? I want to send a get request for now. Okay, what is the URL? My URL is http colon double slash localhost colon 8000. Do you want to send any query parameters? Query parameters are nothing but URL variables, guys, which you mention like this. See, question mark ID equals 1, and you might have seen this, right? Name equals Saurabh. These are what we call as query parameters. Okay, just to show you, let me show you this. When you go, see here, see this, or when you go on Google and search something like, let's say, Dale Stain. See this URL here, guys. Google.com/search question mark Q equals Dale Stain. So it's nothing but a query parameter. Query parameter is nothing but data that you pass through URL. Data that you pass through URL. Sir, we can use Postman also. Yeah, completely fine, guys. See, I am showing Thunder Client to the new people. If you're already familiar with Postman or Insomnia, you can definitely go ahead and use it. No stopping in that. It's also fine. You can use it. Totally fine. So query parameters are nothing but data that you pass through URLs. Right now, no. I'm not dealing with that. See here, the header section. Do you want to send any headers in your request? As of now, no. So I'll delete all these default headers. Do you want to send any authentication information? No. Do you want to send any body data? Remember, guys, we talked about this request body data. So do you want to send any data? It also gives you a way of sending data. See, but we don't want to do anything in this case. Can I use HTTPS? Yes, Trisha, that's also fine. You can use the HTTPS module as well. It's totally fine. I'm just trying to keep it simple. That's why I'm using the HTTP. But you can definitely use it. I think it's kind of has the same methods. So yes, Trisha, you can use it if you want. Yes, that will be fine. It just adds an extra security layer on your API, right? The SSL layer. So you can use it definitely. It's totally fine. Guys, so right now, I'm not mentioning any body data, no auth, no headers, no query parameters, no URL parameters, just a plain request. And here in the bottom, you have one more window where you see your response. So all your response that is coming, this data or info. Thunder is good for testing your API. Yes, I always use it. I tested my big APIs using this only. I personally like it a lot, Thunder Client. And the best part is I don't have to open any other software that will cause issues with RAM in some cases. So I don't have to open it. Thunder Client works inside VS Code. So that's the best part, right? I don't have to go to any other software. So yes, I use Thunder a lot. Okay. So guys, see the response window here. on this response area, whatever data or info, response info is coming, that will be visible. And the status code can be visible here. See the status area? Here your status code will be visible. And any headers coming in the response will be visible here. Don't worry about all these things as of now. You'll understand them slowly. But as of now, yeah. So guys, let's test it, everyone. Let's send this request. Send. And here we go. See that, guys? You got your response. Hello, you calling me, right? And also see 200 okay is the status. 200 means perfect, okay, everything is working. Size of the response 20 bytes. The time it took for the response 4 milliseconds. Understood, guys? Now we can send any kind of request. So let's go and let's create the code of how to identify which kind of request is coming. Everyone, all set? Clear till now? Guys, cleared? Now let me show you how to understand which request is coming or which kind of request is coming or what is the method of the request. So don't worry, that is simply available inside the request object. It has a property of method. So request dot method. That's it. Connection was refused. I think you have to start your program. If your program is not running, it will not work, Francis. So make sure your program is running. Okay, Francis. So if your program is running, then only it will be able to see. So this only comes when your server is not on. So make sure you have running your program. Okay, check it, Francis, if it is working for you. So guys, by using this request dot method, you can check what kind of request is coming. Now let me show you then. Focus on the console, guys. Focus on the console. I'm printing the request dot method via my console.log. Now see, right now I'm sending a get request. If I click, see that? Get. Let me send a post request. See that, everyone? Guys, let me send a delete request. See? So this request dot method is helping you to understand which kind of request is coming. Understandable, guys? So based on this, I can identify, right? Time given in Thunder is important to measure how efficient. Yes, Naveen, exactly. It will always make, so you can make sure by that how much time it is taking. Will it be good for the normal users and all that? Yes. Yes. So you can sometimes you can also change few coding techniques to see if something is taking less time or more time. So yeah, yes. You can check the efficiency of your API. Yes. So guys, this request dot method property helps you to understand what kind of request is coming. And based on that, now I can do this. See, if request, so if a request comes, so I'm checking if whatever request is coming, check if the method is get. So what should I do? So let's just put something like response dot send, not send, response dot write get request success. And don't forget your response dot end like this. And just like that, I can also mention else if request dot method equal to post. I can do response dot write post request success, something like that. Response dot end, sorry, end. And then I can also do else if request dot method is equal to delete. Then what do I want to do? So I can do response dot write delete request success. So now by using this logic, I can perform different things on different requests. Let's confirm it once, guys. Let's confirm if this all is working. Okay. So see here, guys, focus here. Focus here now, okay? I'm sending a get request. See that? Get request success. Send a post one. Post request success. Send a delete one. delete request success. See? So yep, here we go. Sir, is it necessary to put return before request.end? No, I'm not putting any return, right? No, Ronak, you don't have to put any return. Return keyword is not for APIs, it's for the function, right? So you don't have to return. No, not at all. So guys, understood? Now you'll be able to perform different things. That's how easy it is. Okay. Now one more thing, guys. See, right now we don't have any real database. Right now we don't have any real database, right? But what we do have is we know how to read and write files, right, everyone? So can we use a file like a database for us, guys? Should we do that, everyone? Let's go. We don't have any real database as of now, so let's go and use a file in which we'll create some data and we'll use it like our database. Let's go, guys. So let's get a file and call it something like products. Let's say we are dealing with product data, so call it products.json and create some dummy products here. So let's get a JSON file and create some data. Exactly, Naveen. Yes, because post is a heavy operation. It is created for data transfer, right? That's why it's a heavy operation. Okay. Right now, I'm not putting anything, but yeah, in future, it will be helpful for passing data because post creates a stream because it flow. Basically, when you connect through post, it is sending a lot of data at that time. That's why. Okay. So how those methods work on browser? From browser, I think the only problem is from browser, you can only send a request via this, the URL bar. And that URL bar only can send a GET request. That's it. For post request, you have to create an application, forms and all that stuff. That's why we took Thunder client instead of the browser. Because browser is mostly capable of only sending GET request. Because browser only has the URL bar and URL bar can only send GET request, nothing else. So you have to create your application. Okay, cool. So let's go, guys. Let's create our data, right? Let's go. Let's create some dummy data like ID. I'm creating a simple JSON file in which I'm creating a simple JSON data ID1. Let's say name, something like, let's say Dell monitor. And let's say price 10,000, something like that. Then let's say quantity, it is 1,000. Let me make it 10,000. Quantity of 243. So one product is ready. And just like that, I can create n number of products now. Okay, so ID 2. Let's have, what can we say? Let's have boat headphones, something like that. Price, let's say 5,000. Quantity 121, right? Something like that. I forgot the comma here. ID 3. What else can we have? We can have, I don't know, Samsung camera, something like that. Let's say 2,000 in quantity of 45. Okay. So now, guys, I have a simple JSON file in which I have 3 products, right? Now, guys, do we know how to read a file? Everyone, do we know how to read a file? We know, right? First thing is we need to import what? The FS module for that, right? So here we go, FS. Now, as soon as a request comes, or yeah, as soon as a request comes, what I'll do is I'll perform a read file operation. Right, let's do that. So let call it products. Get method may not appropriate for sensitive data. Yes, exactly. So we never use get for transferring data. We always use it only for getting data. That's what get is going to do. Okay. So let products equals read the file fs dot, and for now we can do it in synchronous way because it's very small file. So let's do it in a synchronous way. My file name is dot slash products.json. Products.json. And I want it to be read in the format. Let me close this sidebar for now. Yeah, here we go. UTF-8. Now guys, what will happen? This line of code will read this whole file, and this whole big string will be available in this products variable. Right, everyone? Guys, correct? And now, if someone sends a GET request, instead of sending a GET request success, I will simply send the file that I have read, the products data. That's it. That's all. See? So we read the file, get the whole data, this whole data inside this variable. And if someone sends a GET request to me, I simply write that data. Just I give back the data. Let's see if this is working. Let's see. Let's see, guys. So it should be a GET request, obviously. Send. And here we go. Can you see that, guys? Where is the button? Come on. Okay, guys, let me just do this. Yep, let me just put it side by side. See now, here everyone, all the three data available. You got it? Our first API endpoint is working. We can call this URL and we are getting this data now. Our first API endpoint is working, guys. Are we cleared, everyone? Guys, cleared? Please tell me. All set? So that's how it is gonna work. Okay? And just like that, we can create different endpoints. Now, if we want, we can also tell the user to send us what you say ID, and based on that, we can also return single data. I know we have get it simple with JSON file, but if I need to actually read a database, can I use MySQL? Yes, yes, yes. You can connect your API with MySQL. You can connect your API with MongoDB. You can connect your API with any SQL server. It's totally fine. Yes, it's completely fine, and you can do that. Yes, it needs. This is a thing that needs practice. I know that. This is a thing that obviously needs practice. Okay, without practice, it cannot be done. Okay, now guys, let's move ahead and let's talk about how to pass data through URL like this, and how to read it in my code. So guys, let's see. Now to do this, guys, the first thing that you need is you also need one more module that will help us to read URL data more sufficiently. Okay, and that module is called as the URL module. Just require that module. It's also an inbuilt module available in Node.js URL. So what you have to do is you just have to do this. Let call it parsed URL like this, and just call the function URL dot parse and pass the URL, this one that is coming in the request, this request URL. Just parse it, and to parse it, you also have it available in the request object. So just go ahead and write request dot URL and mention true here because you want to parse it, and that's it. Now let me show you what it gives you. Let me show you. It properly divides your URL in different parts. Let me show you. Sorry. See guys, now focus on what are we going to get here. Focus on the terminal, guys. I'm printing the parsed URL in the terminal. See what it is going to give us. Send it. See that, everyone? A URL object is available in this protocol, slashes, auth, host, port, host name, everything is available. And if you pass some data like this, ID equals 3 or something like that, see, that thing is also available in this query property. That's what parsing does. If you don't parse it, your request.url, you will get something like this, request.url. Just print it. See how it does it, how you get it. See, oh, where is that? Wait. See, you get it like this. So extracting that ID, extracting that data, then it will become your task. Now it's your task then to extract that ID, extract that 3 from that. But if you simply use this module and parse your URL, so URL.parse, pass your request URL in there, and then this parsed URL gives you a really cool object in which everything is already separated for you properly, and you can just start using it. See, something like this. See that? All of them is available, and see your ID is properly available in this query property. So query dot ID will give you your data. Amazing, right? So basically now if I want to read my data, I just have to do this. Parsed URL dot query dot ID, and that's it. That will be it, guys. Now see how easy it was to get our data. See, 3. So whatever the user is passing in the URL, I can easily get it like this. Understood, guys? And now based on this, I can try to fetch any data from here. Where is that? From here, and pass that single. So that means if the user request likes this, if the user is requesting like this on the server directly, localhost colon 8000, I give him the whole data. But if he does this, question mark ID equals something like this, I give him only the data that he wants with the ID of 3. Is this backend web development? I'm getting it for the first time. Yes, this is backend web development, but at the very basic, at the very core. There are much more better ways of doing it. Like in Node.js, we usually use a library called as Express to create APIs. But guys, understand, Express itself internally uses HTTP module. So it's a library that gives you direct functions to do all these stuff. But while you're seeing all this stuff, you're actually understanding how an API works, because Express abstracts a lot of things from you, right? It gives you direct functions to do everything. But here you are dealing it in the core way. So yes, that's how you basically do backend development. And right now we are doing it in the very core logic, in the purest form of API development. Okay, guys, so let's go. Now see, if the user is not sending the ID, at that time the ID will be undefined. And if he is sending, at that time ID will be available. So I can do this. See, so if you're sending a get request, I'll also check one more thing. I'll check if parsed URL, right, dot query dot ID is equal to undefined. In that case, I send you the whole data. And if the ID is available, or let's do this, guys. Let's do this. Let's store it here like this. Ah, come on. What's happening? Let's store the ID here actually. Let ID equals this, like this. And let's do this. So now just write ID here. So if ID is undefined, that means user is not sending ID. So first I check if the method is get. Fine. If the method is get, now check if ID is there. If it is not there, send all data, because user is requesting for all data. But if ID is there, then we need to send that specific data. So for that, guys, first I will convert my JSON data to a JavaScript object. And guys, it's very simple. If you have learned basic JavaScript, you can simply convert a JSON data, a JSON array into a JS array by just using a function called as json.parse, like that, and pass your array products. Because what you read from this file is a JSON data. It looks like a JS object, but it's not JS object. It is a stringified version of JS object, a JSON data. So when you read the file, you only got the JSON data. But if you want to perform some operations on it, you need to convert it into a JS array. And that's what I did. JSON.parse this products. So it will convert it into an array. Is it clear, guys? Everyone? Oh, let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you that. So let's pass. I'm passing ID from here. Focus on the console, guys. Focus on the console. Let me directly print the products first. See the difference. Let me print the products. Console.log, what you have read from that file. Products. See, I'm printing what you have read from that file, the products. I'm just printing that. See what is printed here. See that? All white. All white because it is text. And now, if I convert it using json.parse and print my pro r, now see that, everyone? It is printing like a proper array of objects. That means now I can also perform array operations like filter, for each, all that stuff. That's why I converted my JSON into a proper, and don't forget to do response.end here, otherwise no response will go and your server will keep hanging like this. Okay, understood guys? So that's why we need to convert it so that we can perform that find operation and all that stuff. Okay, now then, time to find that data with the help of the ID. So guys, very simple. We have an array of 3 objects which exactly look like this, and we have an ID. So how to find a data based on ID from an array? What is the difference between JavaScript language and Node.js? Trisha, JavaScript is the language, Node.js is the running environment of JavaScript. So what you're writing here is still JavaScript. We are not writing Node.js. Node.js is not a language. It's simply a running environment of JavaScript. It helps you to execute your JavaScript because by default, you can run JavaScript at only one place, that is in the browser. So right now I'm running JavaScript outside the browser without depending on any HTML page. That is done via Node.js. That is happening because I have Node.js installed in my PC. So JavaScript is your language. Node.js is a running environment of JavaScript. It's like you have C, that is the language, and C compiler, which is actually the running environment of C language. It's like that. Okay, guys. So now let's perform a find operation. So no, we don't need to. We don't need to loop through it. That's one option. Obviously, we can loop through it. But what's better is there is an inbuilt function available in arrays. So ar dot find. There's a function called find available. Then inside that, one more function is available in which you can pass your ELE, an index, and you can tell your find function to return that data wherever. So first convert it to numbers because it is like a string. Wherever ele.id matches my ID. I'm converting both of them to number, guys, because whatever data we are sending, it's coming like a string. So while comparison, we have to convert both of the IDs to numbers. So now see what this is doing. Now we know that pro_ar is an array of 3 objects. So now what will happen, guys? Find function will go through each object every time, just like for each. It will go to each object one by one, and it will check. So find function will go to each object, each element one by one, and that element for that time will be available in this ELE variable. So I'm just telling my find function that return that element if ele.id, that means that ID matches my ID that I'm getting from the request URL. So right now, see, right now I'm passing 3. So what will happen? Something like this will happen. See. So first, it will go to this one, right? Then it will check. Return if ele.id, that is 1, is matching your ID. That is nothing but 3. So is 1 matching 3, guys? Is 1 matching 3? No. Fine then. Ignore it. Go to the next one. Find function will now go to the next one. Fine. Now check if ID 2 is matching 3. No. Ignore. Go to the next one. Check if. Fine. Now, yes, the element ID is matching your ID. So return that element. So that element, complete element will be returned and it will be available in this variable. And find stops because find is only made to find one data. So find stops now. It will never move ahead. And in this variable, you'll have this whole object. And now you can say that I simply want to send this object back. That's it. So response.write. But remember, guys, you cannot send a JS object. You have to send a JSON. So again, we're going to convert our JS object to JSON. And to do that, Json.Stringify is the function in which you can pass your product like that. And that should be it. So first, we convert our products array, products JSON to JS object so that we can perform this find operation and extract the object. And again, while sending, we convert our object into a JSON string and send it. And that's it. So now if a GET request comes, first check if ID is there in the URL, right? I have extracted the ID from the URL. If it is not there, send whole data. If it is there, then convert the data into object, extract the find object, and convert into JSON and send it. And that's it. You're sending a single found object. So guys, let's test it now. Let's go. Now see, first of all, if I send a request without ID, what happens? You get all the data. And if I send a request with ID, like this, ID2, you only get that object. Response.write. Can we respond write an HTML tags? Yes, yes, you can do that. Yes. You just have to set the type then. That's all. You just have to set the types. You can also respond with HTML tags. That's totally fine. Okay. So guys, are we cleared everyone? How we made this really basic API? Guys, and just like that, we can move ahead and create for delete, update, put, patch for everything. But for that, we need some more time other than this session. So definitely we'll do on someday. Don't worry about that. We'll be also coming with some Express essential in future, where I'll directly teach you all about Express. But to understand Express, this was very important. So guys, I really hope that you understood the basic concept of how an API works, what is a request, what is a response, right? And how to create a very basic API with a very basic request. I know that we have not completed everything or the whole API because we don't have that much time. We were covering the basics. But I really hope that you guys have understood at least now what an API is, how it works, and how it is made in the very core way. Now in future, you can like have this as your basic. You can use this as your Kickstarter, and we can go ahead learning all the stuff. Or the best part is you can also join our course. So you can just go to letsupgrade.in like this, and you can go in your programs and you can enroll for the full stack web development program. It's a 6 months course where you'll have every day live session, and in every 15 days one-on-one mentoring session, okay, by me and by all the other trainers that we have. And in that 6 months course, we learn everything like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, Node.js, React, Next, all that stuff, by also creating 15 plus projects, which include Instagram lookalike, Netflix lookalike. We also learn how to stream things and all that stuff. Okay, so you can join it, and while if you're joining it, if you're interested in it, while joining or while your payment, you can use this coupon code SORA5, which will on the spot give you 5% discount. Okay, so you can use this as well. Is that cleared? So that's what it is. Now, yes, let me answer your few questions. Sir, can you explain Stringify? Yes, obviously. Why not? I can. See, guys, it's basic JavaScript actually. See, let's say you have an object like this. Let me store it in a variable actually. So let D equals an object name. Focus now, focus. Saurabh, age 21. Right, guys? So now D is an object. See, your console, in a console, it is getting treated like an object. Right? Now, we have a function called as Json.Stringify, which can convert a JS object into JSON. See, guys, JSON is nothing but a complete lookalike of JS object, but stringified version, in a string version. It's only a data format which looks like JS objects. So this is a JS object, and if I say json.stringify d, see, it has been converted to a string. The exact same thing has been converted to a string like that. And if I have a JSON string like that, let's say in S, now S is having a JSON string. I can convert it back to an object by using json.parse. See, so I converted a string into an object. So json.parse is a function which helps you to convert JS objects or JS arrays into JSON. And json.stringify is, sorry, json.parse is something that helps you to convert JSON to JS object. And json.stringify is something that helps you to convert JS object into JSON. So that's what Stringify does. Is it clear, Ronak? That's what Stringify does. JSON.Stringify for conversion of object to string. JSON, don't call it string, call it JSON. And JSON.parse to convert a JSON string to a JS object. Okay. Yes, I'll provide it definitely. You, if you guys want, you can contact me here and ask about the course and all that stuff. So guys, okay, wait, there's spelling mistake. Come on, Saurabh, what are you doing? Both the times I made it wrong, guys. Yep, this is it. Saurabh Gupta 8. If you're interested, you can just go ahead and contact me there, and you can ask me your questions. Yes, it basically converts the whole thing like a string. It holds the representation, Naveen. It is not converting your data into string. No, it is holding the, what do you say, the reference of the data. So that, because in future it knows that you're going to convert into something else to use it, because you cannot use JSON. You're definitely going to convert it into something like a JS object or a Java object or a C sharp object. So it knows that. That's why it keeps the data referencing same. It only converts the whole thing into a string. That's what it does. Yes, Loco Plata, our programs basically everything is live here. So basically every day there will be a session, and it will be a live session of 2 hours every day. So it will be like 5 to 6 lectures a week. Okay. And it will be every day live. And after completing the live, that session is also available as recordings. So you can also watch it afterwards if you don't get time to attend live. So it's like coming to a classes and attending it. So every day it is live. It's like that. Loco Plata. Okay. And it's a 6 months course. That means the whole course goes 6 months, 5 sessions every week till 6 months, by creating, learning all the basics and creating all the projects in between. It goes like that. What if we use json.parse, json.stringify? So it depends on what your s is. If your s is an object, then you're first converting it into a string and then again back to the object. If it is already a string, then stringify won't do anything. Then only parts will convert it to object, right? So it's like that. So you can try it, Ashish, once. It's a very weird operation, but yeah, you can definitely try it. Why not? Okay, so in this case, if s is the object, first it will be converted to string, and then again that string will be converted to object. So whatever your s is, again it will be that thing only after doing all that stuff. Okay. Can we host? Yes, but it will take a little time, Naveen. So don't worry. Maybe in some future essential, I'll definitely do it, because today's time is almost done. We are almost 15 minutes ahead. So definitely I'll put some links online available on how to do it, or in the next essential, that is next week only. Next week, guys, we are starting with React Essentials. Next week, Monday to Wednesday, we are going to have a React Essential, guys. Okay. So be ready for that. And if you get time, please also attend that. And if you want to learn more, guys, because you can see in these 3 days, we have only covered the basics. So if you want to learn more about Node.js, and not only Node.js, about everything else, how to create full stack applications, complete applications, and launch them, and not only one, 10, around 10 applications, around 15 plus projects. And if you want to learn more about JavaScript in detail, Node.js, React, Angular, Next, HTML, CSS, you can join our full stack web development program. Yes, Ashwin. So what you can do is you can fill our form. So first you just enroll. Okay. We will contact you and you can tell us what do you want to learn, Ashwini. So yes, that feature is also available. You don't have to necessarily join full stack. Whatever you want to learn, you can speak to us and we will only allot you that program, Ashwini. So yeah, that is completely possible. So you just have to fill that form and we will contact you. We will send you a message and call you, and you can talk to us about what you want. Okay, and we'll plan out a course or a program according to your needs. Okay. So yep, guys, that's it. That's it for today. I really hope that you guys enjoyed learning these 3 days of Node.js with me. Yes, Francis, I read your doubt. Don't worry, I'm going to share everything. And my moderator also told me that doubt was coming from you. So now we have confirmed that yes, you have not received the file. So these files and the previous project will all be sent to you. Okay, Francis, don't worry. Now it will be definitely sent to you. And if in any case you don't get, I have told you that you can go on the community and ask your question there and put your doubt there, or just tell me again in the React Essential if you don't get it. Okay, don't worry, I'll be there. Okay. Yes, Akshay, I'm planning on it, but a lot of new people join, right? So that's why I also have to again cover the basics. I think in the last one we talked about components and basic routing, right? Okay. So Loco Plata, you can do one thing, you can just fill the form and we will contact you and then you can talk to us about all these things, about the EMI pricing and all that stuff. Okay, buddy? Yes, Naveen. Whoever has registered for this course, these files will be shared with all of them. So if you guys have registered for the course, these files will be shared to all of you. Don't worry about that. Okay? So that's it, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you either in the course if you join it or in the next essentials that is starting from Monday. Okay? And I'll try to put some new topics as well, Akshay. Don't worry. I'll try to put some new topics this time. Let's see. Maybe I'll try to put some networking topics this time. Let's see. After creating the basics, after completing the basics in the first 2 days, let's learn about networking. Let's see how to call APIs from React. We can do that. Right, Akshay? So instead of routing, we can put API calls, API consumption. Let's see. Okay. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the course or in the next essentials. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this session, these 3 days with me. See you in the next essentials, guys. Bye bye, everyone. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Bye bye, guys.